Women's football has never been bigger than it is right now. Packed stadiums, record-breaking viewership, sponsorships that were once impossible are now flooding in. From the World Cup in Australia and New Zealand to sold-out Champions League finals, women's football has arrived. We all know that they cannot be paid the same as the men, since the demand and money they generate defines how much they make, and it is significantly below what the men generate. But it has had a big upwind in the last couple years, so the question that matters now is, what's next? Because rising momentum is one thing, sustaining it and turning it into something permanent is another challenge entirely. Women's football is standing at a crossroads. The world is finally watching, but what comes after the spotlight might decide its future forever. Let's go back a bit. It wasn't too long ago that women's football existed almost entirely in the shadows. In many countries, it was underfunded, ignored, even banned. In England, women weren't even allowed to play on football league pitches for nearly 50 years, banned from 1921 to 1971. In other places, the story was similar. Fewer opportunities, less media coverage, no professional pathways. But the tide began to shift slowly through persistence, activism, and a generation of players who refused to stay invisible. Names like Marta, Abby Wambach, Birgit Prince, Homare Sawa, and Megan Rapinoe became symbols of both brilliance and resistance. They fought for more than trophies. They fought for respect, and that fight paid off. The last decade changed everything. From the 2019 Women's World Cup that captivated the globe, to the 2023 tournament that broke records for attendance and viewership, women's football is no longer just the other game. It's the game. The world is finally realizing that talent, passion, and competition have no gender. Momentum doesn't guarantee security. After every great wave of progress comes a test. Can it last? Because while the popularity of women's football is at its peak, the foundation beneath it is still fragile. Yes, we've seen incredible progress. Professional leagues expanding, new TV deals, better facilities, but behind the headlines, there are still massive gaps between the women's and men's sides of the sport. In salaries, in media coverage, in youth development, in resources. A top women's player in Europe or the US might now make a comfortable living but step outside the elite clubs or national teams, and most are still earning just enough to get by. Many still work part-time jobs. Some still train on poor pitches, and some still play in leagues that can barely afford to exist. That's not sustainable, not if the goal is equality or even stability. The 2023 World Cup was a perfect snapshot of this moment. It was a global celebration of the women's game, beautifully played, emotionally charged, and full of new stars. We saw Spain, with their technical brilliance, win their first ever World Cup, despite the chaos surrounding their federation. We saw England, Sweden, Australia, and Japan push the game to new tactical heights. We saw African teams like Nigeria and South Africa show they can compete with the best. The football itself was brilliant. The world loved it. But when the confetti settled, deeper issues surfaced again, from Spain's federation scandal to players across the world calling for better working conditions, pay, and respect. The message was clear. The fight isn't over just because the crowds showed up. So, what's next for women's football? The next stage isn't just about visibility, it's about infrastructure. The next revolution will be built not on hype, but on structure, investment, and long-term planning. And that means three key things need to happen. First, investment at the grassroots level. If we want to see the next generation of superstars, it starts in schools, local clubs, and community pitches. Young girls need the same access, coaching, and support that boys have had for decades. Countries that have invested in youth programs like England, the US, France, and Japan are already seeing the results. But in many regions, that system doesn't exist yet. If federations ignore that gap, the growth will stall. Second, professionalization. Leagues around the world need to stabilize fair contracts, proper facilities, medical support, and media coverage that gives players the recognition they deserve. It's not enough to call it professional if players aren't treated like professionals. And it's not enough for sponsors to appear only when the World Cup comes around. They need to stay during the quiet months too. Third, global balance. Right now, women's football is growing rapidly in Europe, North America, and parts of Asia. But in Africa, South America, and the Middle East, growth is still limited by cultural barriers, lack of funding, and weak federations. The next decade has to focus on making women's football a truly global game, not just a Western success story. The good news is, change is possible and it's already happening. Look at Barcelona Femení, who regularly fill Camp Nou with over 90,000 fans. Look at Chelsea, Arsenal, and Lion. Look at the NWSL in the US, which has survived its early scandals and is now expanding, adding new teams, new stadiums, and record-breaking crowds. And it's not just the clubs the fans are changing too. People are realizing that women's football isn't a substitute. It's a completely unique and beautiful version of the game with its own heroes, rivalries, and emotions. But that also makes it fragile, because as money and attention grow, so do the risks: corruption, greed, commercialization. The same problems that haunt the men's game could easily seep in if no one is careful. The challenge will be to grow without losing what makes it special. Beyond the field, another frontier is opening up media representation. The way women's football is covered has to evolve. Too often, the coverage still focuses on milestones. The first this, the biggest that, instead of the game itself. We need analysis, storytelling, and debate that treats women's football as football, not as a novelty. That means tactical breakdowns, critical opinions, highlight shows, and consistent coverage week after week. The audience exists. The players deserve it. The media just has to keep up. There's also a powerful cultural shift happening. Young girls are growing up with role models they can see. They can wear the jersey of Alexia Putellas, Sam Kerr, Sophia Smith, or Mary Earps, and dream without feeling out of place. That's something previous generations never had. That's how real change happens, not through slogans, but through what people see and normalize every day. The impact of this movement goes beyond football. It's changing perceptions of women in sport, leadership, and culture as a whole. That's the real power of this momentum. It's not just creating better athletes, it's creating a more equal world. Still, the next phase will require courage. Because now that women's football has global attention, there's a temptation to celebrate too early to say, "We've made it." But the truth is, the journey has only begun. Sponsorship deals are still uneven. Media coverage still drops off between tournaments. And some federations still treat their women's teams as obligations instead of priorities. The energy around the game is real, but energy fades unless it's built into something solid. That's the mission for the next 10 years. Turn the momentum into a foundation that lasts, a world where every girl who dreams of being a footballer has a real chance to do it. A world where fans pack stadiums not just for the World Cup final, but for league matches every week. A world where a women's Ballon d'Or winner earns and trains under the same conditions as her male counterpart. That's the vision. And it's closer than ever, but only if the work continues. Women's football has fought too hard to stop now. It's broken barriers, shattered records, and inspired millions. But the next battle isn't about proving it deserves a place. It's about protecting that place and helping it grow. Because right now, for the first time in history, the whole world is watching. The question isn't whether women's football belongs anymore. The question is, what will we do with this moment? The future of the game depends on that answer. What do you think? Has women's football finally reached the point of no return? Or is there still a long way to go before it truly stands as an equal to the men's game?